Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Music of the Week. Not really a lot of time to waste on this one much to go through. 6 albums to go through, so let's go through them as quick as I can do. We begin with Fontaine's DC and their new album Romance. This is an indie band from Ireland that's actually been making the rounds fairly recently. This album has seen widespread critical acclaim from critics, and it's seeing a B- from me. I'm proud of that one, yeah. So I will admit, the production is doing a lot of the heavy lifting on this one. But I think in terms of everything else, it just feels like your average, everyday indie rock post-punky album. You know, nice shimmery vibes to it. Production's really good. The lead singer has a lot of charisma. The band do have a good personality as well. I just think in terms of pacing, it doesn't really introduce anything new. For me, it feels very by the numbers in terms of its pacing. You know, and I think that might be intentional. I don't know. I guess lyrical themes mostly about romance and love are alright. You know, there's good influences from some like romance books and movies as well that are worked in, which you know is good, but also makes me think that the writing isn't entirely original. But yeah, love songs are pretty popular anyway. It's hard for me to do one of these without bringing it up as a subject, to be honest. And yeah. I think the riffs are pretty decent as well. I just really didn't get a lot out of this album. I still think it was really good, but like of all the critically acclaimed indie albums that have come out that I've not liked as much as most critics, this is probably the worst one that I don't like as much as most critics. I don't know, and it's seen some of the higher acclaim as well. But I don't know. I thought it was good, but it wasn't as good as other people are saying it is, in my opinion. Next is Generation of Vipers and their new album Guilt Shrine. This is a sludge metal band, one of the heaviest sludge metal bands I think I've heard in a while, and giving this album a B+. I thought, much like Fontaine's DC's album, this album was really goddamn good in terms of its production. It was produced by Kurt Ballou, God City Studios. I mean, you're in really good hands at that place. You know, Kurt just, like, he gets heavy music production so well. He's up there with Will Putney for me. He's one of the best, like, metalcore producers ever. Just heavy music producers in general. Yeah, like, he does a lot of work. The riffs are really good as well, really strong. I like the drumming, I like the slidginess of the bass. The guitar work stands out quite a lot as well. The band's put in some really good sweat here. They put in some real heart into their performances. There's not really a bad spot among them, and the pacing's pretty good too. I will say it's probably one of the weaker points of the album along with the lyrics, because there's not really a lot of lyrics, and I couldn't find anything for themes, and all it says on the band's Metallum pages, I think it's like ambiguous pseudo-religious references or something like that, and I'm like, yeah, that fucking narrows it down, Metallum, thank you. Yeah, I couldn't find anything to read on it, but there are vocals and lyrics. It's just the vocals are a bit too gravelly for me to understand the lyrics, which is fine, you know. It's more the impact of what's being said than the substance of it. And this is a really good example of style overtaking that substance, you know. It's got really good riffs, really good band work, strong production, and, you know, I didn't mind the pacing either. I did sort of allude to it not being perfect early, but, like, it does start to drag a little bit in places, but it's not terrible, it's not a deal breaker, and still has some really good moments for me. Next is Illuminati Hotties with their new album Power. I was expecting, I don't know, something a bit heavier considering that the album is titled Power. I'm giving this one a B though. I thought this was some really decent indie rock stuff, sort of indie poppy rocky stuff from these guys. Not as I didn't like this one as much as I liked their last album titled Let Me Do One More, I think it was. But this album is getting a lot of hate from people, and I don't know, I thought it was like, you know, I will agree it's not the most exciting album the band have put out, or even really the most interesting, but it's a very cozy and warm album. I think, you know, the pacing is a bit middling, but that's okay. Production does add some unnecessary elements, but I think it does well enough. The performances are really good. But I mostly like the lyrical theme of the lead singer's recent marriage to her wife and just, you know, her happiness. It's nice to hear someone talking about love and being fucking happy with their life for a change. Is that just me? I don't know, especially in like the post-pandemic era, it's nice to have something to talk about that's not the fucking COVID. Or like, you know, how shit life has gone since 2020. It's just nice to have a positive album about love as its main thing. You know? And, you know, riffs are also okay too. I don't know. I feel like this album's gotten way too much hate for my opinion. And yeah, I will agree it's not, you know, it is definitely far from perfect, I will admit, but like, it's a warm album. It's something you put on to vibe to and just remind yourself that you do need to be a little bit happy from time to time, you know? So, yeah, I still recommend giving it a spin. Next, we have one of the few pop artists I actually respect in modern mainstream media, which is Mothica, and her new album, Kissing Death. And I love Mothica. I think Mothica is fucking fantastic. I think this still has some of the best writing. It's got one of the best performances. I'm giving it a B+. It's probably my least favourite Mothica album, but it's not really Mothica's fault or the fault of a producer whose name I don't remember, but they produce all of her other albums, obviously, that will be up about now. I mean, I'm not going to do that because it could be in like glitch form, but if, yeah, text. I'll find a way. But yeah, this is some of Mothica's best singing, and I like the lyrical themes of her, you know, talking about the hard times in her life, and the main theme of this album, because it's titled Kissing Death, being suicidal ideation, you know, and the fact that Mothica's been through a fucking lot, and I feel for her, I really do, but the album made me a bit depressed at times, you know, and I get that that's always been sort of the thing. Mothica puts out, like, some really dark pop music, but I feel like, even though this album actually delves into some nice electro and trappy elements at times, I do feel like those ideas could have been implemented better. You know, I think the production is good, but it doesn't bring those ideas to the forefront as much as I'd like it to. And it does leave a lot of the beat work and instrumentation feeling a bit lacking as a result. You know, maybe a little bit confused about exactly where it wants to go, but it's probably the pacing that hurts the most. This is, I don't know if it is a shortest album, it's just over 32 minutes, but like, there's not really a lot of time given. There needs to be a couple more songs on this one, and I can tell that Mothica is trying to explore a concept in terms of lyrics. She needed, well, I don't, yeah, not she needed, but like, because I don't think it's her fault at all, but there needed to be something here on the album that would better fit the theme of the lyrics. Again, I still love Mothica, I'm still going to listen to her. But yeah, I've had a couple of spins on this one, and I don't think it's as good as the first two albums. I think Nocturnal is the best one, but hopefully she'll bounce back after this, because this is still really good stuff. And if you've heard anything good about Mothica, I still recommend you give it a go. Next is a band called Nile, and their new album, The Underworld Awaits Us All. Now, this is a band I mostly know through Reputation. I first heard about them in 2019 when they dropped an album back then, but I didn't listen to it because I just didn't think I'd give a shit. I did listen to this one though. I'm giving this one a B+ as well, and I quite liked it. I thought it had some really good stuff going for it. It's really good technical, brutal death metal is their style, and the main lyrical theme has actually been something I've been doing for a while, which fits because the band's name is Nile, but they usually focus on things like Egyptian history and myth, which is kind of interesting if you really think about it. Then again, one of the songs on the album has a really long and fucking stupid name about being hung upside down. I think the song is titled, it's something to do with being hung upside down while monkeys throw feces at you. I'm not really sure what that has to do with Egyptian myth. I mean, that could just be a local night in Liverpool for all I fucking know. Yeah, I like that joke. That's staying. But yeah, I thought that was really good. I thought the production was maybe the weakest aspect of the album. I do think it held back the sound a little bit and made things a little bit too dense in places for my liking. I do think the performances, were really, really good though. Especially the lead singer, who actually did the producing. I think it's Carl Sanders. Really good vocalist, really good guitarist if he does do the lead guitar. Needs to work a bit on production though. I don't know, there was just something about it that didn't fully click for me. And the pacing was pretty good as well. It did have quite a lot of padding. This is the longest album of this episode at over 53 minutes, if memory serves correctly, almost 54 minutes. But you know, had a lot of really good. It had a lot of really good justifications for the songs being as long as they were, with really good instrumental passages, some really good lyrical storytelling when it needed there to be. I just wanted it to be like more of a concept album, more than anything. You know, that's the thing they need to do. Sort of the same thing with what Mothica needed to do. And I'm thinking about it. But still, if you just want really good technical, brutal, deathy metal-y stuff with solid riffs and really good performances and good screamy growlies aplenty, this'll do. And finally for this episode, we cover Stand Atlantic, and their newest album was Here. Now, I feel like most people over Stand Atlantic's previous two albums were not super big on them. I thought most people were like me in the thought process. They probably thought the albums were good, but they weren't great. I think Was Here is the adrenaline injection that the band sorely needed. I'm giving this one an A+. I really enjoyed this one. It's the most risky album, first of all. It's still got some of their like typical pop punky trappings, but it's also got a fucking ton of like it's got these pretty much all the songs try something new, which I wasn't expecting. There's more electronic elements at times. There's more traditional punk rock at points. There's some straight up fucking hardcore. There's straight up nu metal. There's like a song that's got a lot of ska and indie influences, and a lot of it actually really works. There's a ton of ideas that the bands throw at the wall, and most of them stick because they keep to their core formula, but they stick new ideas into most of the songs on the album, right? The performances are really good. Lead singer Bonnie Fraser is probably at her best. She's got a shitload of personality, and she can scream. I didn't know she could fucking scream, but when she lets it go, she's really good. And the lyrical themes on this one are pretty damn dark. They detail the fallout of a really bad toxic relationship that Bonnie had just gotten out of. And the reason the album is titled Was Here is because it's about the theme of trying to start over from a tragedy like that. And apparently Bonnie was not in a good place, and I do feel bad for her, but it did ignite some really strong songwriting on this album. I just hope that she's recovering as well as she can from something like that. I don't know the full details of it, but like, the fact that she went through so much shit in the lead up to this album is, you know, it helped. The production is really good too, presuming it was done by Stevie Knight again. He was always the best aspect about the band, in my opinion. Or they, I don't know. Stevie is a male name or a female name, so they were always a really good sort of aspect of the band, and they really help out her as well. There's a lot of really nice organic style to the production. It's quite fleshed out. I like a lot of the riffs as well. They can go quite heavy when they need to, but there's also some really good melodic parts, and parts where they even take a step back for some of the production to really kick in as well and boost the instrumentation when needed. It's really good. I will say the instrumentation is maybe, you know, it can repeat a little bit at times, maybe, and also, in terms of structuring, while the album does have a shitload of really good ideas, it feels like there's a couple of extra songs that were tacked on near the end that could have been maybe cut off, because it does feel like it gets overly ambitious at the end, and a couple of the less, I would say the last two, maybe the last three songs, feel like the band were running a bit out of steam, you know, but that's just me. I still think there was a shitload of really good ideas on this album, and this is definitely something that the band needed to do to revitalize themselves, so can recommend if you thought that they were starting to slip. This is them climbing back up. Next is the official ranking system, so we'll start at the bottom with Fontaines DC with their album Romance, then Illuminati Hotties with Power, then the next three, because they all got B+ is difficult. I would have to go with Generation of Vipers with Guilt Shrine, Nile with The Underworld Awaits Soul, and then Mothka with Kissing Death, and at the top, Stan Atlantic with Was Here as for favourite album cover. Difficult, I will say. I will give it to Kissing Death by Mothka. I just like that it looks like a sort of romance novel. It just looks really, really nice. And best song also goes to one of the songs from Kissing Death. Doomed is probably my favourite song from the album. One of my favourite songs Mothka has ever done, just because of the lyrics and how well it details her life. Yeah, just a really nice song with some really good production, and Mothka singing on it is goddamn heart-wrenching. That'll about do it though. The next thing you'll see me for will probably be a reaction tomorrow if I remember to do one, but also the halfway show leading to Reverence in 2 weeks from tomorrow. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'll see you all for those things. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye-bye.